What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and today I'm back to talk about Warhammer 40k. So a few days ago, I asked you guys a question on the community page. If you could change any one thing about the gameplay of Warhammer 40k, what would you add or take away? Now, the reason why I decided to ask this is because I know for a fact that Gersh1 thinks that 40k takes too long and it's too much of a hassle to set everything up and play the game, when most times you can already see the victor probably around turn 2 or 3. And because of this, we've been trying to spice up the game, and if you checked out last video that we did, I talked about a zombie mode for Warhammer 40k that kind of brings in a third-party NPC faction to the mix. So check that out if you want to see how you can play zombie mode on your tabletop games of 40k. But asking you guys this question, I got a lot of different answers, and some that I didn't even think about. So in my opinion, the one thing I think would be very interesting to see how 40k plays out is if you had activations that kind of bounce between players. So I know when you're playing Warhammer 40k, you move, you shoot, you assault, you basically do all these actions on your turn, and while this is going on, for the most part, the other player is just sitting there waiting for you to finish your turn. However, if you had activations that went back and forth, so you could move a unit, then your opponent moves a unit, then you can shoot with the unit, then your opponent shoots, etc. So I think that would make it more dynamic. However, I don't know how that would affect the overall tactics and gameplay flow. I think that's something that we should try sooner than later to see if that improves or makes it more difficult, because Age of Sigmar kind of does something like this, where you take your turn, but at the end of the turn you guys roll off, and then whoever won the turn goes first. So for example, if player A goes first, turn 1, potentially player A could go second turn 2, meaning that player B can have 2 turns back to back. That could be a huge swing, and it's a lot of tactics to see, should I move my units in danger and risk being shot, or do I take the risk and hope that I go again and take advantage of this maneuver? So I think these types of activations would be pretty interesting to try out, but let's go ahead and see what you guys said. So one of the most thumbed up comments was to lower the cost per model so that more people can afford to build an army. Obviously, this has been a trend for a long time. We all know that Games Workshop is not cheap. They oftentimes raise the prices on a lot of their units, a lot of their boxes, and 40k is a very expensive game. And that's just to buy the models. You also have to buy a rule book, you have to buy modeling supplies, paint, rulers, glue, etc. And by the end of it, just to build a 500-point army that you can play, you're probably spending at least about $500 or more. And then the hard part is finding another player that has done the same. So it is very difficult to play the game. It's not something where you can just like pop up on a Tuesday afternoon and play like a Monopoly game. No, you have to have another person that is going through the hobby steps of building an army, reading the rules, playing it, and having it all assembled, painted, etc., while also having a table to play on with terrain, and it's just a whole hassle. So I do agree that if GW lowered the cost, more people would be inclined to jump into the hobby, and overall, I think they'd sell more, because the cheaper it is, the more people would want to get, more units they want to try out, because I know there are some units that I don't try out because it's too expensive to get them, and if they're not good, or if the meta changes, then I'm just wasting money on a unit that I'll just put on the shelf to catch dust for years. Another commenter says that he misses 3rd edition when it was just wackiness, like when the orcs actually had good and fun looted wagons and random shenanigans. The Iron Warriors could take basilisks. Good times. Yeah, throughout the editions of Warhammer 40k, the game has shifted massively, where nowadays it's a lot simpler, and they're trying to make it more easier for new players to jump in and play the game, where back then you could literally do anything and everything. If you were an orc player, you could literally buy any type of truck and convert it to make it a looted wagon, and you could do a bunch of crazy stuff. There was a ramshackle chart. Forge World was more prevalent in armies and stuff like that. So that really was a fun time. Not very, I guess, not very competitive. It was just to play crazy, overpowered stuff and have fun. Another thing is Chaos Renegades. Basically, it allows a whole soup of chaos to just work together. Where currently, I think you could only bring like 20% or less of a different faction to ally with the Chaos Space Marines. So you could bring Chaos Demons or even like Traitor Guard, etc. Obviously, if you're playing like Unbound or you're just playing with friends, you could do whatever. But if you're like playing match play or you're playing at like a tournament, you do have to keep in mind that you can't just bring whatever just because it makes sense thematic. Darklight says blast templates or more active gameplay. Not necessarily alternating activations, but something to keep the battlefield fluid, whether it's random activations or reactions, each activation like an infinity. Yeah, infinity, hero clicks, there's a lot of different game types that actually make both players be active, you know, during the game, not just waiting for 20 minutes, because then at that point you'll probably get bored, you'll start, you know, going on your phone, and at that point it's like, I'm just waiting for it to be my turn, and then your opponent's going to do the same thing, they'll get bored, etc. So yeah, blast templates are really fun, because you could shoot and take out a horde of enemies. Flamer templates were really cool, because positioning made a lot of sense, because I want to obviously do the most damage. So templates were a fun thing that went away, I believe it was 5th or 6th edition. I still have my old ones. With that in mind, scatter die are also really cool, because you never really know where you're gonna hit, and I think that was part of the wackiness and stuff that you can't really plan for, and I think that really helped 40k be more fun instead of just a, I guess, static, simple type of gameplay experience like it is in 10th edition. And the last thing that I'll bring up is the psychic phase. Currently the psychic phase is barely there. There's not a lot of armies that utilize the psychic phase, and when they do, it's pretty much just another shooting attack. Back in 7th edition, we had a awesome variety of psychic disciplines: fulmination, biomancy, pyromancy. You can literally pick and choose what type of discipline your librarians can use and make it really thematic. You want to conjure up lightning and throw it at your enemies? You had 7 abilities to choose from just from that lightning discipline, and there was like 6 or 7 disciplines. It was really amazing, really flavorful. But coming the new additions, that went away because it was just too many rules to kind of remember. But oh man, was that fun. One of these days I think I'll cover that again and give you just how flavorful and awesome these psychic disciplines were. And it sucks because right now, one of the most powerful psychic armies, the Grey Knights, don't even use psychic. They're a deep striking army. So at the end of the day, GW has done a lot of good things throughout the years, and I think they lost a lot in going simpler for 10th edition. But let me know your thoughts down below, and as always, it's been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Always used to put my freedom first in any situation.